welcome to the Nirvana Strength Practitioners panel. I'm Ian MacLeod, the co-founder of Nirvana Strength, and on today's episode, we're going to be speaking with Dan Jeong. He's a gymnastics strength training coach, calisthenics coach, based from Seoul, South Korea. Seoul, yes?
Daejeong, actually.
Daejeong. Okay, so Daejeong, South Korea. He's been with us at Nirvana Strength for now almost a year, and he's about to head back to Korea, but I figured we'd do a podcast before he left. Today's recording venue is going to be at Nirvana Strength. I hope that everybody can, take some time to come out and experience the difference in what we do for performance training. So with Dan, we wanted to kind of get an idea of like what is his training methodology now and how his training style has changed over the years, but also in doing that, kind of getting to know Dan's kind of training history and also just his experiences with regards to this idea of human performance optimization.
Yeah,
Right.
sure. Yeah, glad to hear all my training history and what I had to offer. And thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no problem, man. So before getting into the training style that you do now, mostly the things that we see on like Instagram and your YouTube channels, there's a lot of educational material. There's a lot of things with regards to gymnastics training, but also flexibility and mobility stuff. How did you kind of first start your fitness journey?
So I started as, just like most people around the world, I started lifting weights. And I got inspired by Arnold Schwarzenegger. She used to be one of my biggest inspiration. So I started lifting weights, and then after a couple of years, I started to get tired of it.
Yeah.
Because it's the same movement. No matter how good you get,
Yeah.
so no matter how good you are
Yeah.
at bench,
Yeah.
it's just you're doing the bench.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got a little bit tired of it, and then I found the b-boying, or also known as breakdancing, and then I got into that for a while. So I quit weightlifting.
Breakdancing is quite popular in Korea, yeah?
Yeah, it was back when I started.
Yeah.
It's not as big right now, but when I started around early 2000, it was pretty big there.
Okay. And what kind of, so there are different styles of breakdancing,
Yep.
right? What was your specific style?
So I did a lot of power moves. So it can include like head spins, windmills, flares, stuff like that, and also some freeze. Are you familiar with some breakdancing terms?
Is freeze like just like ISO holds?
Yeah, it's like pretty much like a static hold.
Okay.
But it's what we call the freeze.
Yeah.
So even the handstand hold is a freeze that nobody really does in breakdancing.
So do you find that that breakdancing background really helped you with where you're at now with your training?
Yeah, it really helped me because before I got started with calisthenics, I already knew how to stand on my hands, and then in breakdancing we don't just do handstand. We actually move around with our hands a lot. So I think I got a lot of learn how to get better at a lot of like hand coordination from breakdancing. That really helped. And when I was breakdancing, I was following a couple breakdancers who could do a planche, and then they'll do that in their battles. So I was really intrigued on like how to do planche.
So like even super like higher level movements.
Right. Yeah. So I've seen some b-boys doing like flares, and then they'll stop in a planche and then just keep going into flare or something. And then I really wanted to know like how to learn planche. After I saw that, so I started training for planche. And then back then, like the amount of resources out there and online was very scarce.
Yeah.
The only thing I could find was get to 60 seconds tuck planche, and then you get to 60 second advanced tuck planche.
Yeah.
And then bam, you have straddle planche.
So it was just maybe the first two steps were really lower level, but then it just kind of like exploded to getting a full planche.
Right, and then and also getting 60-second is just ridiculous. I don't even think I can still do it, although I have straddle planche. But that was the method that was quite popular at the time.
Just basically just hold it for
a lot of holds. Yes,
just a lot of isometric holds.
Yeah, no dynamic movements.
So, but your size right now, like you would be considered kind of like a heavier calisthenics guy, right?
Yep.
How much you weigh right now?
About 85 kilos.
85. And then when you first started, I'm guessing you were smaller than that?
Yeah, smaller, but not much smaller. I was around maybe 80 when I started. I mean, when I first lifting weights, way back at the time, I was 70 something, I think. But even as a b-boy, I was always a heavy dude. Yeah.
So how does being heavy affect your performance in calisthenics?
By a lot. I mean, if you just try to go up into handstand and then try to do a push-up, handstand push-up, the bigger you are, the more gravity you have to fight.
Yeah.
So handstands will be much harder. But I think there's also upside to being a heavy as well, because if you're heavy, but if you can still perform really well, there's more load on your body, which can build more muscles eventually.
I definitely think it's much more impressive with obviously like bigger dudes being able to perform the moves. I mean, someone like for me, I really, when I first saw like someone like Juju Mufu, like just super strong dude, but still being able to do like the acrobatic stuff, or he got super famous for doing the overhead weights with the chairs, and I was like, wow, that's incredible. And I always thought there'd be like a cool compilation video with like showing the high level calisthenics movements in combination with like maybe more of the traditional like weightlifting skills. But yeah, definitely bigger dudes being able to perform movements, and I think that's probably one of the big things that kind of attracted. Well, I wouldn't necessarily like attracted, but definitely brought my attention to your practice when we first met in Korea. Was seeing like, I was always doing weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, like CrossFit kind of stuff. Yeah. But actually seeing some bigger dudes like doing like the gymnastics stuff really helped like make me more interested in wanting to do it. Yeah.
So I don't want to like overlook the smaller guy who does it. I'm still, if you get planche, front lever, all that stuff, it's very impressive. Like no matter how much you weigh or how tall you are. But yeah, like you said, people who are generally bigger tend to motivate me more, or also inspire me more. So I tend to really look up to those guys who can really keep up their level, even if they're super heavy.
Who's that one guy that was like 90 kilos and like super tall that you showed me? He's like from Europe, yeah?
Oh yeah. His name is something like Vitali or something. Yeah. He's like 95 kilos, doing Maltese.
He's like really tall too.
Over 190 centimeters.
Yeah. I remember talking with Daniel Vadnel about how like it's particularly in calisthenics, you should only, if you're comparing yourself to anybody, it should be somebody who's probably similar in size and in shape, versus like if we were to, I mean, like I'm 86, 87 kilos as well, like trying to compare ourselves to some dude that's like 60 kgs, it's probably pretty tough comparison. It's not.
Right. So I did my own, it's not very scientific at all, but I did my kind of research and then looked up kind of figured out the ideal weight and height ratio.
Okay. Yeah. So what did you figure out?
For calisthenics, especially, the most ideal one. But actually, it depends on what you're looking for. If you just want like straight, if you just want to be really good at calisthenics, you should be around height minus 95 or height minus. No, sorry, your height minus 105, or your height minus 110 ish, and then you'll be pretty good.
Height minus 110.
So let's say you're 170 centimeters.
Yeah.
So that minus 100 will be 70 kilos.
Oh, for the weight, the height-weight ratio.
Yeah, okay. Sorry if I wasn't clear.
Okay.
Yeah. So, height minus 105 or height minus 110.
Okay.
That's actually the ratio for the most gymnasts, actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
So that's how I kind of figured it out. I did my own math. I had a free time one day, and then I averaged out like 40 different Olympians who made it to rings finals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I like wrote down all their heights, all their weights, and then made it into average.
Right.
Yeah. So they're about height minus 110.
This is a very funny, but also a very cool point, or thing that you kind of bring up, is that people who are like super high thinkers and high level performers or high level practitioners, right? They'll look at certain objectionable like stats, or they'll look at their industry or their field in a very unique and I mean, in a way, I didn't really even think about doing something like that, like to see what would be the ideal size and weight.
I also did that because so many people ask me, "Oh, how much should I weigh for calisthenics?"
Yeah.
But it just depends on your goals. So,
Yeah.
like I said, 105 or 110 for if you want to just be best at calisthenics, that's very good. But
wow, I mean, I'm only 173, 174.
So it should be like 68 kilos.
Wow, that's like almost 20 kgs less than what I weigh now.
Yep.
Wow.
But those guys tend to be a little bit skinny. And then
if I was 68 kgs, man, I'd be tiny.
Yeah. So if you want like both, but if you want both worlds, like aesthetics and performance, what I found is your height minus 100 or height minus 95 is pretty good.
Yeah.
So for you, it'll be like 73
Yeah.
to 78 kilos.
So, but even yourself, you would be around what?
I'm actually
80?
height minus 90.
Height minus 90.
Yeah.
Okay, so almost there. Height minus 95 would be more ideal, or
More ideal, yep.
More ideal.
So I was still no one. If I'm like height minus 100,
Yeah.
people won't tell me I'm skinny. I'm also not big either. But if you're looking for like just mass, you just want to be massive. Yeah, go for like height minus 90 or even below.
Height minus 90. That might be a little bit more realistic for me.
Yeah, so it'll be like 83.
83. Yeah, I think that's kind of like where I would want to be.
Right.
Yeah, 82, 83.
And then you're also not sacrificing your performance too much. You can still perform quite well if you're height minus 90.
Yeah.
But if you're getting below that, like height minus 85 and even lower,
You're just too heavy.
yeah, it's too heavy. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you also, I mean, in gymnastics as well, between the different competitions, right? They have some people perform better in certain areas of gymnastics because they're long, their arms are longer, or they're like they have just different measurements in their limbs. Did you also think about that as well?
No, that makes the calculations too complicated. And then I just looked up all the Wikipedia profile and then came up with the weights and heights.
Okay. Was there any particular gymnast that you looked at the most, like from any particular country, or just like you looked at the top gymnasts?
Yeah, so I went through the last 25 years of Olympics.
25 years.
Yeah, and then just whoever made it to the Olympic rings qualifications.
Oh, so specifically for the rings?
Yeah, just for the rings.
Why for the rings?
Because that's the closest thing for calisthenics. Because they're probably looking at like pommel horse. I mean, it's still gymnastics, but it's a different sport, sort of. You still have to be pretty strong, but not as strong as calisthenics.
Okay. So you felt like it was just a more direct relationship with like what we do with regards to just gymnastic strength training.
Yeah, because even for gymnasts, they have each of them has their own specialties. Like some of them only specialize in rings, some of them only in floor, or actually there are some all-rounders as well. So and then they all look different. The rings guys tend to be the biggest too. So if I'll be looking at the other apparatus, they'll be even tinier.
Yeah, even smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do find there was a couple of rings guys that I checked out that, man, they were just massive, right? It's probably, I mean, they're just like, they just have to be so strong in their upper body, and some of the movements they're doing like full on like Malteses and planches in the rings. How's your training going now for your planche and your ring work?
So, I actually stopped training for planche for a while because I was consistently getting some forearm issues. So I stopped and then did focus on more on a handstand push-up instead. And actually, I recently got injured on my shoulders doing handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
So and then I had to force myself to train planche now.
Okay.
Because any bent of my elbow make my shoulders feel a little pain.
Yeah.
But planche was okay because it's a straight arm. But what I found is that the chronic forearm issues is actually mostly gone. When I stopped training for a while, which is very good. And then I'm making really good progress with my planche right now.
Yeah. So do you think that do a lot of your times when you do like these longer rest periods from like, let's say, not training planche for a while, do they tend to happen because you experience some kind of pain or some kind of injury?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
because of the injury.
So then, have you changed kind of the way you program now, where you try to more like preemptively plan like just full on rest times for those movements before you experience like pain?
Because this forearm pain's been there for a while. It's just chronic.
Yeah.
It can just I can have the best session of my life, and then the next day I can feel some discomfort from my forearm. It's just very random. So it's very hard to predict or plan out prior. So what I found out is like doing about once a week for planche training doesn't really hurt my performance too much, but I can still maintain. But also there is not much issue with my forearm when I just train once a week. But the problem with that is the frequency is just so low that I wasn't making too much of a progress.
Okay.
So I was getting like quite frustrated.
Yeah.
So that's why I just stopped planche.
Yeah.
And then just focus more on the handstand pushups.
How have you progressed in your handstand push-ups? Do you feel like it's gotten a lot better?
Yeah, it was getting a lot better.
Yeah.
And then I was actually changing. It was actually a bad luck actually. I was just trying out different technique for handstand push-ups.
Yeah.
So I was using parallettes, and then I was trying out different grips for the parallettes. So first one was like parallel.
Yeah.
So they're like right by the side, and then one with your slightly supinated.
Okay.
So I don't know how to explain in audio.
I guess it would be just turning your hand out.
Hand
Hand
out a little bit.
The palms start facing forward.
Yep.
Yeah.
I tried that, and then I also did the internally rotated one, where your palms facing towards each other.
So your thumb, so thumb starts facing in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's the internally rotated one that gave me some discomfort. So, yeah, good lesson learned. Now I know I shouldn't do that.
No, but that's I think that's also a really good important point in what you do. And whenever I am always seeing you training, you're just keeping really methodical notes of every session that you're doing, and I think a lot of people kind of take a very lackadaisical approach to their training and don't really keep track of the different measurables, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that really helps you in your progress?
Yes, so I write down literally everything I do for the day. Not just sets and reps, but also how I felt. So even if you do the same exercise, you're gonna feel different from session to session. So I try to jot that down. And if you're smart and memorize all that, I guess you don't have to write it down, but I cannot remember all that. So
I don't remember what I eat for breakfast. So it's hard to. Yeah. So, but do you also keep track of other parts of your life as well? So how well you sleep and your nutrition and that kind of stuff, or just your training?
Just the training.
Just the training part?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be even better if I track outside of training as well.
Yeah.
Well, what else should I track other than sleep?
Definitely for sure sleep. I would say, nutrition to an extent. I think for all of us, you're already quite lean, and I don't know how much you keep track of your nutrition. But for me, there's definitely been times where if I eat a certain kind of food, so let's say if I had too much pizza or whatever, sometimes all the bread I will feel a little bit swollen the next day, so I'll naturally just be carrying extra weight, which also makes me feel very sluggish.
Yep.
But I think too, when we think about let's say if you're going to perform for the Olympics, you want to make sure that you are at the most optimal you could possibly be. So you would want to, a lot of them have pre-Olympic a phase where they're in same for bodybuilding as well, where they test out different protocols to see how they would feel after let's say the water weight they need to lose for the stage, or how much sleep they need, or what kind of foods they will eat, and then how can they put together the perfect protocol to make them feel the absolute best when they have to perform. For us, I think it's a little bit different because we don't really have that one Olympic time where we need to perform at our most optimal.
Yep.
But I think there is some benefit to even keep track of let's say how many gelato sandwiches you eat, and maybe you eat one and you don't feel great, but you eat two and you feel amazing. I don't
I hope so.
Yeah. But yeah, so with your focus now is mainly on planche.
Yeah, planche. I started doing some one-arm chin-up stuff as well.
Yeah.
One-arm chin-up, front lever, and then some mobility stuff,
Yeah.
especially with the middle splits.
Is there like an end goal? Like is there a point where you're just like super excited and you're just like you hit like one of your major, I don't know, like I mean the Olympics would be kind of like if you won gold medal, but for us, you know, is there a specific exercise or specific movement that would be like your ultimate?
Yeah, I do definitely have some goals, but even if I reach that goal, I probably won't stop. You know, like the richer gets more greedy when they like people who doesn't. I don't know if you heard the phrase like people who doesn't have $100,000, they don't want to make money until they get $1 million. But people who are pretty close to earning $1 million, they want more money.
Yeah.
Or even if they have more than people who are slightly poor. So I think probably similar to the training. So I would like to get a Maltese at some day of my life. But even if I get Maltese, once I get there, I'll probably want like Maltese press to full planche or something like that, like something more crazy.
Yeah.
So I guess there's no end goal. Just keep going.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
And but you generally take a lot of joy in the process, right?
Yeah.
In the everyday grind of trying to progress to those points.
Yep.
And I do find it too, like when I first started even just doing handstands, man, I was just happy just getting like 10-second hold, you know, but now it's like 10-second hold is like nothing.
Yeah.
And so it basically, I was like happy for like one day, and then the next day I was just like, okay, can I do more? Even if you did Maltese, like let's say on the ground, like eventually you'd want to maybe even progress to doing it on the rings. How do you find doing exercises, like taking them off the floor and then putting them onto the rings? Like, is it more difficult by like 1,000, or I mean, how much more difficult is it to do ring stuff?
So when I first grab the rings, most people just try to getting up with the rings is pretty tough. Being on the top support, I ended up like dancing around a lot with my hands. You know, like your hands get super shaky.
Right.
Yeah. Because when you add that instability into a factor, it just makes it, I don't know how many times harder, but definitely harder than just doing it on the floor. But yeah.
Yeah. So after doing like breakdancing, if we go back into your history, then after breakdancing, you progressed to what?
Calisthenics.
It's just purely calisthenics.
Yes.
Yeah. And then what else were you doing in your life at that time?
When I was lifting weights, I also did track and field as well.
Okay.
So I started off as a sprinter, and then I slowly phased into middle distance runner. My body type was more suitable for sprinter, but I was actually much better at middle distance running. I'm not sure why though, but yeah, I did the track for a while as well during middle school and high school.
Yeah. And then you continue training. I mean, in Korea, it's mandatory to go to the military.
Yep.
So was it difficult to continue your training while in the military?
It actually wasn't, because if I were to, most men, actually all men are required to enlist in the military, but if you can make also a choice to become an officer if you have a university degree, so I chose that route, where because officers tend to have more freedom, because you get to actually go home instead of just living in a base like most enlisted personnel do, and you get better pay, and then you get, after you're done working at 5, you get to go home and just do whatever you want.
Right. So it's so much more like a regular, normal.
Yeah, it's just like an office job.
Yeah. And what was your particular background?
I was a translator in the military, so I actually didn't have to go through any hard physical training, except in a boot camp. As soon as I was out, I didn't do any of the physical stuff.
Which is very funny, because you're probably like one of the most fit guys that would be in the military, yeah?
Yeah, like a lot of people maybe want to go send to like recon, like reconnaissance, or like those tend to be like one of the hardest jobs in the Marine Corps in Korea. But yeah,
it is quite funny with your physique though. Like if you were just to like walk into a boardroom and then just like this translator is just jacked, like just walking in and
Yeah. Yeah, like so I remember a couple of officers told me like you shouldn't be a translator. I should rather be like a platoon leader.
yeah.
Just by looking at my size.
Yeah, cool. And then so then you ended up serving for, was it like three years? 4
Yeah,
years?
including boot camp, it'll be
Yeah.
like 3 years and 3 months.
Okay, and then after you finished, we had you come out to Bali. Yeah, for
Yeah.
a year.
Yeah.
How did you find your time here so far?
Oh, it's been great actually, and then the timing was just right because Nirvana opened in June, right?
Yeah, officially June 1st.
June 1st, and
you,
then I got out at June 1st.
you got in June 1st. Yeah.
Yeah, the timing was it couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah, I think that's been one thing that's been really good, you know, is that just creating a greater network, you know, being able to meet so many of the different coaches that have been coming through. You know, everyone from like Yudi, Marmerstein, and, you know, the guys training now, Devin Kelly and such. But I think for the big thing for me with regards to the facility is just kind of been able to create an environment and community that encourages so many different coaches of high level to come. But this was kind of like the maybe most prolonged time where you're actually coaching kind of maybe more like normal people.
Right.
What were some of the initial difficulties that you found kind of training regular people as opposed to people that have been doing calisthenics for a really long time?
Yeah, so I made some mistakes, a bunch of mistakes, especially in the beginning, thinking that certain progressions that I thought was super easy was actually very challenging for most people. So,
Any examples of that?
So there's one particular example called kip extension.
Okay.
I'm going to try my best to explain it. So you can do it on the rings or bars, doesn't matter. Bars is a little bit harder. So you start in like a hanging leg lift, top of the hanging leg lift. So your toes are right against the bars with your legs and arms straight. And then from there, you're going to try to extend your hips all the way to touch the bar without bending your elbows.
So on the bar, you're inverted, right? You're upside down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it looks like deadlift, actually,
Right.
but hanging
Just
upside down.
Hanging upside down.
Yeah. So I figured if you can do a couple pull-ups, I thought you can do that. So I made the entire class do it, and then no one could do it.
Yeah.
And then also
Even just getting up, right? Just getting into the position is quite difficult.
yeah, even just hanging leg lift with their toes right by the bar is impossible for most people. So yeah, that was my good lesson there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's been quite interesting because before opening up Nirvana Strength, you know, even for myself, I did most of my training just kind of by myself.
Yep.
And didn't really have a lot of experience with people that haven't had much training in gymnastics, strength training, or calisthenics. And even some of the people that I did train with, most of them kind of had like more of a CrossFit background. So at least they were somewhat, you know, strong and could do pull-ups and such. But it's been quite interesting and a good learning experience with regards to like dealing with people who are like coming from a yoga background or calisthenics background or weightlifting background, and just seeing how to best coach them, you know, like give correct assessments, giving them good feedback.
Also, one of the challenges I also found is that you have no idea who's going to show up for the day. So
that's
let's say if I open up the gym in Korea, I'm gonna be seeing same people over and over, right?
Well, yeah, because everybody's living there.
Yeah.
They're kind of like it's not a big tourist community.
But here, most people are here for like 2 weeks, 4 weeks, and then leave. So I just cannot expect anyone who's gonna show up. So it's pretty challenging for me to like prepare a curriculum before a class.
Yeah.
It's actually almost impossible because you have no idea who's gonna show up.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, there's been a few times where we would start a class with, like, I would start it with like 2 people, and then 15 people would come like 5 minutes into the class.
Yep.
And there's so many people of just so many different levels as well, right? So I do, though it is very challenging with that regard, it's really hard to plan for the class. I do think that it makes you a significantly better coach because you're forced to change the program so quickly. You're forced to make adaptations, modifications to the exercises to kind of fit so many different people.
Yeah. You have to do it on the fly too.
Yeah.
Like, in like a few seconds.
Mm.
You can't say, "Oh, give me a couple minutes to readjust my schedule or program."
Yeah, no, that's been definitely a very tough part of the coaching aspect and learning how to coach.
Yeah.
What have you kind of enjoyed from your own like personal education while you're here in Bali?
Can you clarify?
Yeah, so like the workshops and meeting all these other coaches.
Yep, yep.
And is there any specific points with regard outside of your own like personal like training from an educational standpoint?
Oh, yeah.
What have you enjoyed?
There's definitely I love Nirvana as a hub for a lot of, doesn't matter your level, like whatever your background is. Like, there's so many people gathered from all over the world. I really like that part because when I was training in Korea, I was mostly just by myself, and there's just barely anyone to interact and then have like pretty high level conversation about training. But here, there's just so many people. Even if you're not a advanced like calisthenics practitioner, maybe you're like really advanced yogi, and they could have a conversation on that. So it's just really good to see a lot of people with different backgrounds.
Yeah, like we've had a couple of Olympic athletes from different sports like snowboarding and rowing, but then also we had Tammy, the aerialist, who came and did a session with the coaches. I thought that was really interesting.
Great. Yeah. I would have never seen those guys. Like, if it weren't for Nirvana. Yeah, in Korea, I don't even know how to find those guys.
Yeah, but then also like the cities, you know, like Korea is just, I mean, even though as a country is like the actual land size is not massive, but I mean, you go to Seoul and it's really easy to get lost and real easy to, I mean, it's very difficult to find people to train with. And also too, it's not, I mean, I would say with like the training community, like calisthenics and circus performers and stuff like that, it's probably not as big of a market to attract.
Yeah. Even if there's very scattered all over the country. Yeah, you just have like three people here, 3 people there. We'll never have like a hub for everyone.
So other aspects of what you're doing with regards to not just your own like training, but you're also educating a lot of people through your YouTube channel. When did you first start doing that?
I think it was 2013.
Yeah.
Back then, the calisthenics wasn't very popular in YouTube. Actually, there were just only a handful of channels, I think.
Yeah.
Teaching YouTube.
Are there any calisthenics guys who were the guys that you maybe followed back then?
Fitness FAQs. He's the only one I remember, honestly. He's the OG. They've been around for a while. Yeah. Since the beginning of the YouTube, and yeah, he really inspired me to start a new channel as well. But I decided to market the Koreans as well, because back then there's zero Korean market. Yeah. There's not a single video on like just how to do a handstand or how to do planche in Korean. So I figured it would be a good idea to start my channel. And then here we are.
Cool, man. So I mean, every single one of your videos, you also, I mean, you take really good advantage of your background in translating, because you do the videos in English and then you translate everything into Korean.
Yep.
How long does that normally take you? Like, let's say for like a 10-15 minute video.
Well, it depends on the video type. If it's like an interview like this, this is gonna take pretty long time because it's a lot of talking. Yeah. But if it's like instructional video, just showing like how to do planche, it's not as complicated. But yeah, being a translator just really helped me to translate super quick. And then I'm also not writing like a novel, or it's not like it's just my channel. I can just translate how I want. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be like super.
It doesn't have to be like a perfect translation.
Yeah.
But I think too, like for anybody that does know some Korean, like sometimes the actual literal translation from English to Korean can be quite difficult.
Yes. Yeah. So sometimes I actually add a joke in Korean subtitle if I thought of it. That. And also vice versa. Like I will make a joke in English, but if it's hard to translate, I'll just skip that.
I think jokes generally among all languages are quite hard to Did you ever have a funny situation, like in the military,
Yeah.
where somebody tried to say a joke and you had to translate it?
Yeah, multiple times, but yeah, most of the time it just didn't work,
Yeah.
and and then I also had to tell people that it's a joke.
Yeah.
Actually, you have to say it's a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you just say that. Would you ever be like, he just said a joke, just please laugh, or something like that? Like
I've
not
heard
even-
some people have done that before. I
Yeah.
personally haven't done it,
Yeah.
but even if I hear a joke, I try my best to translate it on the fly. Actually, being a translator really helped me in that regards as well. Just thinking on the fly,
Mm.
because you have to translate it as soon as whoever was speaking it ends their sentence. So you get like a second or two before you digest all the information. So I think that could have applied to teaching in Nirvana as well, where I see that, like we said in the beginning, we have to think on the fly and then make adjustments. So I think, yeah, being a translator might have helped.
Yeah. So with your YouTube channel, how often do you upload videos?
I aim for about once a week.
Yeah.
If I can do more than that, even better. Yeah, just once a week.
But once a week is still, I mean, that's quite a lot still though, no? I mean, you're doing
Yeah.
everything on your own.
Yeah, filming, scripting,
Yeah.
yeah, everything. And yeah, it's quite stressful, honestly. Like I've been doing it consistently for about 6 years.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you complete the video, you have to think about another one, because you cannot produce a video in one day. It takes a few days normally.
Yeah.
So as soon as I upload it, I take about a couple days off, and then I have to start making another one.
Yeah.
It's like an endless journey.
So, are there times where you kind of just don't want to do it anymore, or?
Yeah, sometimes I feel like that, honestly. But I've been doing it for so long, it's like eating for me. Yeah, I just can't do it.
Yeah, so just part of your normal day habits. Yeah.
Just habits.
But I think too, like you're already, like so let's say this podcast, or your videos, you're kind of already shooting quite a lot of videos yourself anyways, just to kind of keep track of your training.
Yep.
So do you kind of incorporate those videos that you use, like you're training anyway, so you just do YouTube videos on that?
Yeah, sometimes I make a compilation of my training videos. So maybe like at the end of the year, I'll make the best of 2019 Dan Jeong videos or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll just gather all the good workouts I did and then combine it into one video. Yeah, I could do that.
I think thinking of that, it always makes me think of the video with your shoulder dislocates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, considering you're such a big dude with like really broad shoulders, I think the shoulder mobility is one thing is like really impressive with what you do.
Mm-hmm.
When was like the big breakthrough for the dislocates?
I think it took me about 6 months
Yeah.
to be able to do it while hanging. But probably it took another few more months to get the hands a little bit closer together. Because I started quite wide, maybe 1.5 times wider than shoulder width apart, and then finally being able to do it shoulder width apart.
Yeah, I think for the dislocate, the hanging bar dislocate is quite hard to describe, so I'll just put a link into the description.
Yep.
So people can kind of check that out. But I think it's I mean, I've definitely shown some people and they almost can't watch because it just looks really freaky.
Yeah, because I'm the one who does it, I don't know why it looks freaky, but most people think it's freaky.
Well, it looks like it's completely unnatural, right? I mean, the way the shoulder kind of just like pops through and then just, but your face is just so calm and just like,
I mean, I tend to make pretty good poker face on it. But if you think about it though, like if you do the same dislocate with the PVC pipe, it's the same thing, honestly.
Yeah.
Just holding onto the stick behind your back and then try to pull it through all the way forward. But it looks more impressive because you're using your entire weight versus just a stick.
For sure. So in your training, do you mainly just stay with upper body movements, or you work on your legs much?
Yeah, I do. Well, with the leg stuff, I do just focus on the mobility. So I work on my glutes, my adductors, those areas. But I don't really train to get hypertrophy. I just train to get the mobility I want, which is middle splits, which I already have it, but I just want to make it more solid. And then I'm working on a lot of glute strength for planche, which is quite crucial. And I'm just doing very, very basic leg workout so I can teach leg classes here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about it, honestly.
Okay. Do you have any interest in, for example, like doing the front splits, or is it mainly? Do you find that? I mean, is one split variation more beneficial than another?
Yeah, I'll say so. I think if I were to make importance, I think pancake, flexibility, and then middle split is probably the two most important things in calisthenics. They're very applicable and then into different type of exercises. With front splits, however, I think it's good to have it, but it's not the must
Yeah.
to get 180 degrees. I think if you can go about 160 degrees, it's more than enough.
Yeah.
And then at that point, it's more important how actively engage your body to hold the front splits,
Yeah.
rather than just resting in the front splits.
So like one thing that I definitely find through my own like flexibility and mobility programming that's changed a lot, especially with all these like mobility specialists have been coming through, is being more active in the process.
Yep.
You know, instead of just doing a lot of passive
Yeah.
stretches. Have you found yourself doing that more too? Like, are you being more active in your exercises?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of active mobility stuff. Yeah, I mean, I used to do them, but nowadays, like you said, after I met some mobility
Like
specialists,
like Yohim and
yeah, those guys,
and Nettie, like
yeah, it really inspired me to work a little bit harder. And then it looks quite boring, but I try to enjoy it as much as I can.
Yeah. Do you find that do you do like a good mix between your concentric, eccentric, and isometric holds, or do you focus more on like iso holds and working on negatives in your programming?
For the mobility stuff?
Well, just overall, like in all of your programming.
Yeah, so I try to incorporate isometric hold and some dynamic movements.
Yeah.
So dynamic movements include concentric and then eccentrics.
Yeah.
And then add some, spice it up with some isometric hold. So I've been making some different experiments with this one. So especially for like training for front lever planche. When I first started, I just did static holds.
Yeah.
That's all I did. And then I also went through a phase that all I did was dynamic movements. So no holds, just concentric, eccentric. I tried both, but what I found is like I need to do mix of both.
Yeah.
To get better. Some people say just doing dynamics will get you planche and front lever. I mean, it's part of it is true, but if your end goal is just to be able to hold the planche, I think you need to practice holding the planche as well.
Yeah. What are some thinking about that way, right? Like people thinking that they can train one particular way and get the hold results. Are there any other ways that people are training that you think is maybe not as effective or not as correct?
Probably training to failure. I almost never get into failure, honestly. I think training short of failure is very crucial, but you have to be training almost till the failure though. So let's say you can do 10-second planche, like straddle planche hold. If you go for 10 seconds, you're pretty much doing a max hold. It's like doing a max bench.
Right.
If you're training for bench, you don't want to be maxing out all the time, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't really think like that in bodyweight training. They just go for max hold.
Yeah.
So if you can do 10 seconds, maybe like end around 8 seconds.
Yeah.
So like right before you're about to fail, and then you can definitely have more quality session. Training short of failure.
I think that's definitely a very important point that you say, is that a lot of people don't think of calisthenics in the same way as they think of like weight training.
Yep.
And you wouldn't do like a max back squat every single day.
Yep.
Like it just doesn't. You're not really getting much volume in that, and also too you increase your risk of injury when you're dealing with such a high weight.
Yep.
Are there any particular movements in calisthenics that you find that maybe the risk to reward ratio is the highest, or?
risk to reward.
Yeah.
As in
like
for
how
good or bad?
What for bad? But how would let's say someone new to calisthenics, like how do they decide like which progression to use so that they don't injure themselves?
So with regards to risk to reward ratio, especially if you're a beginner, I'll stay away from too much of straight arm movements, like too much planche, too much iron cross, or anything straight arm. You have to be careful because not many sports utilize the straight arm movements. I can only think of just calisthenics, honestly, just doing the straight arm.
Right.
Even for the snatch, start with the bent elbow and then you just lock out your elbows at the end.
Yeah.
So, can you think of any sports that does straight arm movements?
Not really. I mean, because everything tends to be quite dynamic.
Yep.
And dynamic movements tend to involve like the arms moving, like being bent arm. I don't know. Yeah,
I mean, straight arm movement is definitely very beneficial, but when people get started with this training, they get so excited and they just train so much with their straight arm, which can be very taxing on your biceps and forearms. So I'll say be careful with the straight arm stuff.
Yeah. Do you think? I think a lot of the straight arm movements tend to put a lot of pressure on the tendons and ligaments of the joints as well. I mean, you see a lot of the tennis and golfers' elbows kind of happening a lot. And I think one thing with doing muscle ups, particularly like in CrossFit, you see like so many people have shoulder injuries. Not only necessarily because of the added weight in the shoulders, but also too they don't fully prepare. They don't have like a lot of overhead flexion right in the shoulders, so they're lacking in their range of movement.
Right.
So when we're thinking of like, let's say straddle planche or doing muscle ups, how do you go through the process of figuring out where in the movement that you're weak, and then how do you go about training those?
I think the best thing you can do is just come to Nirvana, get a coach, ideally a good coach, because that's when the experience comes in handy. It's just really hard for me to tell, this is, just hold for how many seconds. You can do that in weight training, because you can just give out percentage, like, week 1, 60%, week 2, 70% over 1 RM, whatever. But in bodyweight training, that's just not possible. So I'll say you just have to go try and error. Like, I still go through trial and error to this day. Like I said in the beginning, I was experimenting with different grips for handstand pushups, and I got injured. So I've been doing this for years, but I still get injured like that. So don't be afraid to make some experiments.
I definitely think it's definitely one of those areas where, I mean, we think about, let's say, just handstands alone, not even all the other movements like all the levers and planche and mana and all that stuff, but I mean, just the handstands, like there's just so much material to go over, and then even like each particular exercise, there's so many adjustments that can be made based off of the angle at which you're doing something, obviously the level of intensity of that exercise, but because it can be so complicated, not having a good coach makes progress difficult.
So if you have a good coach with you, he can analyze right away like what your problem is. So let's say your shoulders is going forward. I mean, you lack of shoulder flexion strength or mobility. So it's really good to have a coach analyze like that. But if you try to analyze by yourself, it's very hard to tell what you're going wrong. So that's why you have to be really diligent when you do calisthenics, because there's so many things that can go wrong. So make sure you do your research, and then make sure you watch my YouTube channel and then learn all the stuff you need to know.
For sure. I think too it's one of those arenas where, like, if you do have the opportunity to go to Korea and you can have a session with Dan, is that like, you could have one session. Like sometimes people are hesitant to spend like a lot of money on good coaching, but I always look at it from like a time perspective. Like if I can do one session with you, and you can teach me enough in that 1 hour session to save me 6 months of time, or even save me from a possible injury that I could be going towards,
Mhm.
I mean, that's completely worth the time and the effort to actually get a good coach.
Yeah, and it's just not an hour from you, right? Like it's an hour of years of experience that you garnered,
Right,
and then
right,
just
right,
combine
right.
into the 1 hour.
Yeah, I think I was talking with Devin Kelly, and one of the, like, there was like a story of like Pablo Picasso where he was just took him like 30 seconds to draw like an amazing photo
Yeah.
or picture on like a napkin,
Yeah,
and he was like, some lady asked him to sell it to her,
yeah,
and he charged like $25,000.
yeah.
But yeah, it's for him, it was, you know, like 60 plus years of experience that goes into
Yep.
this 30-second period. So
Mhm.
I think really understanding like why certain people charge certain amounts,
Yep.
right? They're actually charging based off of their years and years of experience.
Right, right. Yeah, so I even heard some dance instructor in Korea. He charges tremendous amount, but sometimes he ends the class early
Mm.
when the students get their goals.
Mhm.
So let's say they're working on like a particular step in a
Yeah.
dance. If they get it in 30 minutes, he just ends the class in 30 minutes.
Oh, so it's more goal orientated,
Yeah.
the sessions.
Right.
Okay.
'Cause
Oh,
he
that's good.
claims that it's actually good for both of the students and the teachers because it also saves time, right? 'Cause you, instead of taking an entire hour, you just finish in 30 minutes. Yeah, but yeah, there's ups and downs to that. Some people will be offended, I think,
Yeah.
honestly, because you can always teach a little bit more.
Mm.
But it's just different style of teaching, I guess.
Sure. So you have only a couple more weeks left here in
Mhm.
Bali. What's your next step, man? You're working on some big projects?
So I'm moving back to Korea in a few weeks. I'll definitely miss Bali,
Mm.
but yeah,
We'll
I
see you
also
again
miss.
soon.
Yeah, I'll come back. I mean, I also miss Korea, but yeah, there's a few things that I am planning, but I'm not very ready to share in public yet.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll be definitely uploading more YouTube videos.
Mm.
I actually set up my own YouTube studio in Korea, just for me.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, so I don't have to be bothered by someone else, or because there's always a problem when I'm shooting videos. Like,
Mm.
because of the copyright reasons, I cannot have any music played.
Mm.
And
So you're gonna be, but you also were a DJ.
yes,
So you're gonna start DJing your own music, or
I'm looking to get started again.
yeah?
Just gotta find a spot.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but what was I saying?
The copyright with the music on the YouTube
Oh yeah,
videos,
yeah. And then if there's someone playing music in the gym,
yeah.
unless I own the gym, I cannot tell that person to like pause the music, right?
Yeah,
It would
yeah.
be not a good move.
Mm.
Right? So yeah, sometimes I will just plan out the shoot for 2 hours, but that gets postponed because people keep showing up. And they're
Mm.
like on my camera angle, or they'll be playing loud music. So
Yeah, I think that's definitely something hard to do when if you just have like a big gym that you're just like, or even just a big gym where there's just open facility for
Mhm.
people to train and stuff. I know that we just recently kind of started shooting just like really basic like movement videos, and we were wanting to incorporate like instructions in the video.
Yeah.
But I found that it's just unless you just like completely clean out like no people in the gym,
yeah.
like it's hard to get the audio part
Yeah.
without all the background noise. So I think we're gonna end up just shooting it just as the actions, and then I think it's quite popular to do like the short like
Voiceover.
well, not the voiceover, but they have like where like they'll have some text that show up in the video, and it like points to like the shoulder and say like big shoulder flexion or something like that.
Just use subtitles.
Yeah, using subtitles basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I started shooting around Sunday morning, because
Yeah.
there tends to be gym tends to be quiet,
Mm.
but the chickens outside tend to be louder at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's either people walking around.
Yeah.
If there's no people, their chicken just screaming for 4 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of funny part about Bali is even in the like the evening time when we do like events outside, it's just can't control all the animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember reading one of the comments. shot a video with Devin Kelly.
Yeah.
And then this one and then there's a chicken in the background for the whole video, just screaming. And then this one guy said, "Is someone dying?"
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just roosters.
Well, cool, man. Is there anything else that you're working on besides your YouTube video and your own training?
It may seem a little bit boring, but yeah, that's about it, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, just those two. And then outside of that time, I just try to rest as much as I can.
Yeah. What do you do for your recovery stuff? You doing much ice bath nowadays?
No, not so much ice bath, but I do a lot of EMS.
Okay.
I don't know honestly if it's helping, but at least I'm getting some placebo out of it. I think I'm getting a little bit less sore.
Yeah.
Do you feel the difference using EMS?
I don't know if I necessarily use it enough to feel the benefits of it, but I also don't know if it's like we have the hyperbaric oxygen chambers here, we have the EMS, we have the ice bath, the hot bath, the sauna. We get massages and cupping and sometimes get dry needling. So I don't know, like at some point, like doing so much different recovery stuff, I don't know where I'm getting the most benefit from. I just know that I feel better like if I just do like everything. But I also too think that like with same thing as like with training, you know, recovery, there's just the more recovery you do, the less positive returns you're going to get. So if you were to, let's say, only do EMS, you might see like a 20 or 25% increase in your recovery rate. But if I added on the chambers, then it would only go up to like, maybe it only goes up another 10%. And then I add on the ice bath and it goes up maybe just another 5%. And like as I do more stuff, you can only recover so much so fast. But I think with all that accumulated volume, you know, in this training as well, it makes sense to try to get as much volume as you can and almost incorporate all these different movements into your normal routine. It's kind of similar approach with like the idea of like greasing the groove, right? Is that if you kind of just do, like if for some, I don't know, if you ever got to a point where doing an iron cross was just kind of like part of your normal day, like you just woke up in the morning, you just did iron cross, like then because it's just so normal, you almost wouldn't even have to train it. It would just be kind of normal. Does that kind of make sense?
It's like walking. Like we don't recover to walk more. Like we can always walk. Yeah,
you can always walk. Or I mean, I always give the example of like generally most Asians can kind of sit in a full squat with no problem. And that part of it is just they've just been doing that their whole life. But most Westerners can't. I mean, it's actually really hard for them to get into a full squat, and they have to train it every day to be able to do it. Whereas most Asians would just be like, I'm just sitting, or it's just kind of so normal for them.
Yeah, this is stuff that's another thing that was pretty tough for me as well, because I could always squat. But when I had to teach people how to squat, it was a different thing because I never had to learn it. I just kind of did it. But I think it'd be a much better teacher if you can actually go through the same process. Actually going through and then how to learn how to do squat. That's why sometimes, not always, but sometimes learning people who are doing calisthenics, learning from people who are doing calisthenics are better than learning from the gymnast. For the gymnast, they just been doing it for so long since they're young that they kind of forget how to do it, or they're always been able to do it. But whereas us, we actually have to train to do like certain movements. So tend to remember a little bit better. So there's ups and downs from to where to learn from, but that's the one good thing from learning us.
I do find that sometimes you can get like some super high level athletes who are just like really good at advanced movements, but then you almost ask them to explain like how to squat or something like that, something very simple, and they'll almost like be confused with the question, like they just don't even, like, what do you mean by teach how to squat? Everybody can squat.
Teaching basic stuff is actually more important, more hard than teaching more advanced stuff.
I mean, think of think of how many times you had to teach like scapula push-ups, and scapula shrugs, and it does get you know, the basics, the foundation, you know, movements for sure get very, very repetitive, but it's these, but they are foundational movements for a reason, right? Like they are like the most important aspects of, especially like something as simple as scapula engagement, right? Like even understanding and knowing how to move your scaps, you know, up, down, protraction, retraction. I think you find a lot of trainers as well that don't even know how to move their scaps.
Yeah, because this scap movements aren't very emphasized in other sports as much as gymnastics or calisthenics training, I think.
I think too, though, it should, but I mean, even in like, let's say in boxing, right, where reach, right, is such an important aspect of the sport. Like, can you, you know, punch like 70 inches or 60 inches or whatever? Being able to fully engage your scaps, or knowing how to use your back in the punch, I mean, it makes, I think, a lot of sense that transfer over.
Yeah. Something else?
Cool, man. No, I think that's coming too close to it, and that's kind of an action-packed conversation. Talked about a lot of stuff. Yeah, but really excited for your next step, man. I'm looking forward to everything that you're working on. It's been great to have you here for the year. Definitely going to miss having you around. I think, man, just keep up all the training, and I'm sure like one day you're gonna be like super famous Korean Dan Jeong and doing some crazy calisthenics.
Telling me I'm
stuff.
not famous right now?
No, even more famous, man. We get global. But I think
highly appreciate it.
The interesting thing about the calisthenics realm is that even though it's been something that's been around, it's like one of the oldest training styles in the world. But nowadays it's kind of seen as like the new trend. Right? I mean, the Greeks and the Spartans of the old, you know, like 5th century BC were using calisthenics to train their military. You know, it's not like they were going to the local gym and doing bench press.
Right. But nowadays the calisthenics training is more getting structured. Even just 10 years ago, like I said, how to do a planche was just hold a planche for 60 seconds. That's the only instruction, honestly. With straight arms. That's it.
I mean, even this gym, you know, if we started, I mean, we've only been around for a little over a year, but if we started even 1 year earlier, I don't even know if it would have worked. Just because I didn't think the industry or the like people were ready kind of for a facility like this. I mean, there's not many calisthenics gyms generally in most
countries. In a big city, maybe like two or three. That's it. Compared to fitness centers where there could be thousands.
Cool, man. So if people are wanting to learn more from your YouTube videos and see your movements on social media, where can they find you?
Type up Dan Jeong, DanJeong, and then you'll find my Instagram and YouTube.
Okay, awesome, man. And we'll definitely include those into the show notes.
Sweet.
Thank you for joining us on today's practitioners panel with Dan Jeong, and we look forward to not necessarily seeing you, but having you join us in future conversations.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, thanks, bud.
Sweet.